heard of the words scholarly and popular. You may have also received instructions from your professor requiring you to use some scholarly sources when you're doing research for something like a paper or a speech. It can be very intimidating to begin the research process anyway, and when you're not familiar with some of these terms, that can make things even more confusing. So my hope in this brief video is to explain some of the differences between a popular source, a scholarly source, and a trade source, so that you'll understand that before you even go to the databases and begin your research. So let's look at 5 different aspects and compare and contrast them between popular, scholarly, and trade sources. The first aspect that I'd like to talk about is the appearance, or how can you tell just by looking at something whether it might be popular or scholarly. Well, popular source, I like to think of it as the kind of thing that you might see at the checkout line at the grocery store. They're very eye-catching. They use a lot of color, both on the cover and on the inside. They tend to use glossy photos, glossy paper. They may have a lot of coverage of celebrities and famous people, and you can easily pick that up just by looking at it. A scholarly source, on the other hand, is often very plain, both on the cover and on the inside. It may have some color, but it's not going to look like a popular source. It may be mostly or even completely in black and white. And you may also see things in the articles on the inside, such as graphs and charts and tables. A trade source sometimes can look like a combination of popular and scholarly. It may use a lot of color on the cover and on the inside, and it might be printed on glossy paper, but instead of covering things like fashion or celebrities, it's more likely to depict settings that are appropriate to the particular field, like an industrial setting, or let's say nursing or teachers working in a school setting. The second aspect that I'd like to discuss is the audience, or who is the intended reader of each of these 3 types of publications. In a popular source, the audience is generally non-professionals, just the general public, you and I, people who may have no background in a particular topic. Sometimes it could be an educated and interested public, but it's something that's geared for a very, very broad and wide audience. A scholarly publication, on the other hand, is geared toward researchers, scholars, experts, and even students like you and others who are part of the college or research community. A trade publication can be used by students and researchers, but it's really geared toward people working or possibly even seeking employment in a specific industry. The third aspect that I'd like to cover is the purpose, or why is a particular publication or a particular title even published. In the case of a popular title, the purpose is really to make money, to sell more magazines. They could also have secondary purposes to entertain you, to provide information, but going back to the audience, they're providing general interest information to as wide an audience as possible. A scholarly source is meant to explore particular theories, to provide the results of research in a particular discipline and add to the body of research that's being done. A trade journal is intended to keep professionals in a particular industry informed, to contribute practical knowledge and provide news and updates. It may contain updates about research, but a trade journal is not going to have the original research. You would find that in a scholarly title. The fourth area of comparison is the content, or what is inside. In a popular publication, you would find possibly news, general interest articles, again, lots of celebrity coverage, possibly editorials. They don't use any jargon or specialized language. Remember, it's geared toward a very broad audience, and you're probably going to see a lot of advertising for a wide variety of products. A scholarly publication is going to contain original research, the research studies that are done by professors and researchers. You may also see theoretical discussion, abstracts, references at the end of each article, and a scholarly publication is going to tend to use the jargon or the terminology of their discipline. So if you are outside of that discipline, you might find some of that jargon tricky to understand. You will probably not see many ads in a scholarly journal. And the content of a trade journal, you will see industry trends, information about new products or techniques, news about particular companies, forecasts. A trade journal, like a scholarly journal, is going to tend to use some jargon and terminology specific to that trade. You may see ads, but they're going to be very specific to that particular industry. And lastly, let's talk a little bit about the authors. Who writes the articles for each of these different kinds of publications? Popular titles, they're usually journalists or freelance writers. They may actually be scholars, but normally the author's credentials are not going to be provided to you. You won't get any information about their background or their authority to write on a particular topic. This is very different from a scholarly journal where the authors are the experts and researchers, the scholars doing research on a particular topic who are authorities in their field. They almost always provide their credentials, and the very important thing to remember about most scholarly titles is that the articles go through a process of peer review, where they are read by experts in the field before they're even published. So when you know that a journal has been peer reviewed, that gives it extra reliability and credibility that you know you can count on the information contained in there as being valid. And the authors of a trade journal are going to be specialists with expertise in that particular field or industry. They will also normally provide their credentials. Now, some of this might seem like it's very abstract, so I want to show you quickly an example of what this can look like if you are looking in a database, because I know that most of you are not going to be looking at a print copy of one of these magazines. You're going to go to a database. So I just have an example here to show you. This is Academic Search Premier, one of our EBSCO databases, and you'll notice here that there are little icons on the left side of each citation that tell you what kind of source it is. These particular titles are listed as being academic journals. That means it's a scholarly source. A periodical over here means it's a magazine, or it could be a trade journal. And over here we have a news article from a newspaper. This one happens to be from the New York Times. If you're doing research and you're getting a lot of articles like this from a wide variety of sources, you can always check this box over here to only search for scholarly and peer-reviewed journals. You can also tell when you're looking at the PDF of an article, and I have an example here of a PDF of a scholarly title. You can tell this doesn't look like anything that you might see in a publication like Sports Illustrated or People magazine. It's basically black and white. You can see here they give the credentials for the two authors, so you can see their background, a little bit about them, and why they are writing about this topic. As you go down, you can see it's all in black and white, no pictures, basically a lot of text. This particular article does not have really a lot of charts or graphs. It has a table here, and then at the end, look at this long list of references that you will see in a scholarly title, but you're not going to find that in a popular title, and probably not in a trade title either. So just to end, if you have any questions about whether a title would qualify as being scholarly or what you're looking at, you can always ask your professor, or you can ask a librarian, someone who can help you sort out the differences. I hope this video has been helpful to you, and I wish you happy researching.